Said in the talk that he gave a year ago, and yeah, you're good. And he said the only way that we're going to be able to grow our creative community and really our community overall is to show up to other people's stuff. So I want to kind of commend you guys for showing up to other people's stuff. First and foremost. You know, realistically, if people don't come and continue to support events, people aren't going to be able to continue doing events. People aren't going to be able to continue pursuing these initiatives and so on and so forth. So I also have another saying that I want you guys to think about as well. Turnout is not indicative of success. I've had events that I put a lot of time and energy into that for whatever reason, whether or otherwise, you know, maybe people just didn't show up. But if you're able to take something away, either a relationship, insight, a tip, a best practice, now you know about a new platform that's going to be able to connect you to new things. That, to me, is success. So kudos to Design Moves for hosting this, and thank you guys for creating a platform to bring the community together and to bring people together to learn and to connect and find out about new things. I want to start off with the why. Have any of you guys ever heard of or read Start With Why by Simon Sinek? So it's really important, you know, that when you're doing something like this and you're trying to create a movement and you're trying to create impact, that you do it with purpose and you do it with passion. And if you start with why, and if you're genuine and passionate about what you're doing, it makes it a lot, I don't want to say effortless, but it makes the work you're doing not feel like work so much. So, as I mentioned, I'm from Broward County, born and raised, and when I moved to downtown Fort Lauderdale about 3 years ago, I was getting more and more into culture, arts and culture, and I was chasing these experiences, and a lot of these experiences were taking me to Miami, or West Palm, or even Austin or Nashville. Finally got to a point where I said, we should have some of these here, and anybody that's from here can tell you one of the biggest knocks that we have was, A, for a long time, not my term, people said that this was a cultural wasteland, and B, they also said that there's not much to do here besides drink and go to the beach. Well, I don't drink that much, and we don't go to the beach every day, unfortunately, so we have to have other things to do. So I went to Memphis, Tennessee, where my roommates are from, for the World Championship Barbecue Festival because I was food blogging at the time and wanted to explore and experience. And I saw that they had a campaign called Choose951. They have Choose901 to recruit teachers, paramedics, and firefighters to work in Memphis. Because I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there. They unfortunately have 2 of the 5 worst neighborhoods in the country. They can't get people to live and work in Memphis. So they started Choose901 kind of as a recruiting tool to have people want to live and work in Memphis if they saw all the cool things that were going on. And they've made a tremendous amount of progress. And it was so inspiring to me hearing my roommates' friends and people that became my friends saying, oh, David doesn't choose 901 because he doesn't come back home. So I came back supercharged and inspired. I said, well, you know, our problems aren't even really that bad. I just want to, you know, find more things to do. And I also wanted to kind of bring people together because, as I was mentioning before, I grew up in Coral Springs and my graduating class had over 1,000 people in it. I'm out in downtown Fort Lauderdale every single day, and I very rarely see, if ever, see any of those folks. Some people have their own families, some people live out west and are doing other things, so maybe they don't, you know, come downtown Fort Lauderdale. But I would venture to say if they were out, I would probably see them at some point. So I felt under this social platform that I've seen be so effective in another city where social media isn't even that prevalent and that prominent, if we could show people with social media, visual storytelling, and the modern means and resources that we have available with our phones, that I could give these people a reason to choose 954. That I could try to bring people together over the things that I knew about. A lot of these art events like the Art Walk, they're not really doing me much good if they're just stuck in my head and I know about them, but no one, you know, the masses aren't coming to attend them. So I started Choose954 as a social movement. Initially, I was saying to revitalize Broward from a cultural perspective. I was suggested to pivot from saying revitalize because we do have good things. We have a top performing arts center, but we really need more of this fostering a sense of community. So what we're working to do is cultivate culture and community in Broward County. So how do we do that? We curate culture via social media, posts, visual storytelling, which are videos, Instagram stories, content. I do a curated event calendar, and if you guys, if you're not familiar with what curated means, I take the time and I follow a wide scope of things that I, in my research and in my professional personal opinion, feel these are the things that people are looking for. So I curate, I put them together, an event calendar, which also turns into a newsletter, which I distribute once a week. It's not spammy, I promise. To keep people in the know with like, hey, what's there to do this weekend? People don't want to follow the New Times to SouthFlorida.com to Venice Magazine. They want to go to one source where they can trust that this really is the stuff that the cool kids are doing, or that stuff that maybe isn't on their radar. And I take, because I had a lot of friends that said to me, you're always going to the coolest events, you should put a calendar together. So I did it, and I do it in a way that when I curate this content, when I share it on social media, I do it in a community building way. Come out to our favorite community event of the month, the Art Walk in Flagler Village. Come, and one of the things, and one of the testaments to this event is, that I'm really glad to see, is we're so busy with our own personal lives. We obviously, everybody has their own unique situation. But one of the things, the greatest pastimes in human history is face-to-face human interaction and connection. And I think now more than ever, we kind of need more of that. We need to have these interactions, and we need to foster these relationships. And if you look at the great cities around the country and around the world that are doing it, the Austins, the Nashvilles, they have a really great sense of community and people really come together. So curating culture was one piece, but that wasn't really enough. So we started creating culture in the form of events. I was fortunate enough to meet my future business partner at a TEDx simulcast event where they were showing a TED Talk. We were talking about it after, and after the event, I was talking about Choose954. Long story short, he was me 10 years before me, but before social media. But he was more involved with government. He was more involved with the cultural division and the actual things going on. So he had a wealth of insight that I'm fortunate enough and lucky enough to be able to have benefited from him having been there. So one of the things that we wanted to address is we didn't have a major 4-day art fair. This didn't exist. We had nothing. Are you guys all familiar with Art Basel? Yes. So there is no Art Basel here in Fort Lauderdale. Did any of you guys know artists personally? Okay. Where does your artist friend showcase their work?
Galleries.
Okay. Okay. Not every artist can get it. Or ArtServe? Okay. ArtServe is a great place. Not everybody can get into galleries. Not everybody gets into ArtServe. So where are these artists supposed to showcase their work? So we have the Art Walk, but the Art Walk's once a month. Not everybody gets into it. But really, the only other place is an art fair. But if you don't have an art fair in your hometown, then you have to go someplace else, and you have to give another market, another business person, another area your money. We're really big on support local. We've seen the support local movement all across the country, and realistically, small businesses, the dreamers, the doers, the passion pursuers, the artists and the creatives, they're the lifeblood of America. Would you all agree? So we really wanted to create a place for our local independent artists to be able to showcase their work, while also creating a platform for the community to view and interact with art in a way that they've never experienced before, because that experience just didn't exist. And we also wanted to elevate the arts and culture, to put Fort Lauderdale and Broward County on the map as a destination to view and interact with art. Not that we're trying to compete with Art Basel, because that's not really part of the game. We just wanted to create something super unique for our community, where we live, where I'm from. So we created the Art Fair on the Water. It's the only art fair around that I don't know if you caught, can only get to via boat. How many of you have heard about Art Fort Lauderdale? Okay, so it's a lot easier for me to show than it is to tell. So I'm actually going to share a video here first from our good friends at Deco Drive to show you what we're talking about with the Art Fair on the Water, because it's a little bit different concept.
This art show lets you hit the water and tour some incredible $1 million homes, and the best thing is you don't have to drive. Every year, Art Basel takes over Miami with events all over town. Art Fort Lauderdale offers a more intimate experience.
We wanted to create an art fair that essentially highlighted the assets of the city.
The fair takes advantage of Fort Lauderdale's canals and waterfront mansions to create a one-of-a-kind art experience.
It's a 4-day art fair that takes people on this artistic journey along the Intracoastal Waterways, visiting 5 luxury vacant waterfront homes.
To get to the next gallery, just get on board.
The water taxi takes them around from property to property. We have 5 homes that they'll visit. The water taxi is going to be coming around in about 30 to 45-minute increments.
And the art on display is all over the map.
Just really a series of different kinds of pieces, from pieces that are with epoxy, pieces that are traditional paintings, all sorts of artists from all different ages.
I see the idea as the merging of architecture with nature and art. And it's such a beautiful, unique idea. I think the only other place in the world that can do this is maybe Venice.
You get to experience several things at different levels. You not only having a boat ride, which is nice in itself, but then you get to these amazing mansions that wouldn't otherwise be open to the public.
If you like what you see, everything is for sale, including the houses.
We are offering this house for $5 million, and it is newly completed.
Best of all, you can see what that painting would look like in your house. You know, if you had a $5 million mansion.
The fair experience for a lot of people is really, really hectic and busy. This experience is an experience in itself. So the journey is part of the experience.
I don't own boats, and I don't own mansions. And as mentioned in the intro, collaboration is key. So we also, mind you, are not independently wealthy folks, and we didn't have, and we still don't have, any major backing from the city, the county, the state, any philanthropist, any major donor. Thankfully, my business partner was in a position that he was able to self-fund the first fair to help get it off the ground, but we weren't able to do the things that Art Basel does to make a multi-million-dollar production. So we partner with realtors that have homes that are for sale, that they let us curate and exhibit and feature their art in, which ultimately is the most glorified open house of all time. Because there's no other place in the world where people pay to take a boat to look at your house that's for sale. Right? So we collaborate with the realtors to get the homes, we collaborate with the water taxi to utilize the boats, we collaborate with the Bahia Mar, which is the yachting center, to allow us to use their space to start the journey, because we had to have a space where hundreds of people could come, park their car to, and have us pull up big boats on a continuous loop. Yes, go, question.
When you say we, are you talking about the group 954?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's so Choose954 is the social platform part of it, and Art Fort Lauderdale is the event part of it. And if you have any questions,
Part of the Broward County Cultural Affairs and everything.
we collaborate with the Broward County Cultural Division. I support all the Broward County Cultural Division's events. They support our events, but we're a private entity.
That's
good.
awesome. Thank you.
And to her point, if you've ever tried to work with government, there's a lot of red tape. You have to wait a long time for things to come to fruition. We knew to launch an art fair that you can only get to via boat. If we were to wait around for a grant or for funding, we would still be waiting around. So that's why, thankfully, Andrew saw had the foresight to be able to self-fund it to get it off the ground, so that now, in the second year, last year was the second year, now we're in the third year, but in the second year we were able to get support from the tourism board, the Conventions and Visitors Bureau, because they see the value in marketing Fort Lauderdale as a destination to view and interact with art. We also partnered with the real estate board, the GFLR, because they see the value in having the most glorified open house over 4 days imaginable as a resource for their realtors to showcase their homes. So there's ways to literally create something out of nothing and combine businesses, the arts, your passions, to do something good for the community. This is a ticketed event, by the way. There are $50 tickets. That includes your water taxi, and that does include entrance to the fair. Oftentimes the fair itself in Miami could be $25 or $50. Then you still have to pay for parking. Why is that important to business, or why is that important to our community? I'm going to read you a couple of stats and give you guys a couple of things that you might not have known about otherwise. The Broward County Culture Division commissioned a report called The Creative Industries in Broward County, Florida, that is in line with something that the Americans for the Arts, a nationwide organization, is doing to highlight the importance and the emphasis essentially of the creative economy, which I'm going to speak to a little bit more. But if you didn't know, there are 6,906 arts-related businesses in Broward County that employ 31,000 people. That contributes to 4.2% of all businesses and 2.7% of all employees in Broward County are specifically tied to the arts. Obviously, we have a huge tourism industry here. We have one of the biggest ports in the world here and one of the largest airports in the world here. But that translates to $414 million of economic impact from the arts every year. Now, I want to give you a quick perspective. Art Basel, for 1 week, $550 million into the local economy that it creates by bringing people to Miami for Miami Art Week. Art Basel is the big event, but it's really Miami Art Week now. They do $550 million in 1 week. We do $414 million in the year, and we didn't have a 4-day art fair like an Art Basel. So, the creative economy, I'm going to give you the proper definition. Have you guys heard that term before? Creative economy? It's something that there's a very popular economist, Richard Florida, started popularizing a long time ago. We actually brought him here to speak 15 years ago. The term refers to all economic activity that depends on a person's individual creativity for its economic value, whether the result has a cultural element or not. In this usage, the creative economy occurs wherever individual creativity is the main source of value and the main cause of a transaction. The real world practical applications that I like to use to kind of paint a real world picture is when you go to the theater, when you go to the Broward Center for Performing Arts, there are stagehands that are involved in producing the play. There is somebody in the marketing department that came up with the flyer. There's the actual performers themselves. They all contribute with their form of creativity to the creative economy, which helps contribute to that $414 million economic impact number. With this place, and I really hate this term, but I'm just trying to paint the point here, having been a cultural wasteland, by elevating the arts and culture, by creating platforms for the artists to be highlighted, showcased, and found and discovered, not only is that making this a more culturally enriched place where there are more things to do, but it's literally impacting and benefiting our local economy. The other better example that you guys might resonate with is when you support a local artist, when you buy a piece of work from a creator, somebody that made something themselves, they're able to take those funds and buy more art supplies. So where do they buy the art supplies from? The art supply store. If we were not supporting our local artists, if money was not going into the creative economy, into this creative ecosystem, unfortunately, realistically, artists couldn't continue making work, the art supply stores wouldn't continue operating, and then we're going to be back in this cultural wasteland place. So I'm trying to paint the picture of kind of how all of these things kind of tie together. It's not just, oh, art and culture, that's a pretty picture. This literally, and if you think about the cities that are being considered the